I did it. I just passed the Part 107 exam with an 87%. I'm now qualified to register for a remote pilot certification from the FAA. And man, it's been a crazy journey. So I started flying FPV drones. It's been almost a decade ago. It's 2025 now. I started back in like 2016 maybe. And I got out of the hobby because of all the remote ID regulations and all that stuff, and got the bug to get back into the hobby about 6 months or so ago. And man, the technology has come so far. Flying some of these digital systems is super fun. And so I figured I might as well go ahead on and jump all the way in and get the Part 107 certification. So here I am. So I just want to kind of do a brain dump of you guys of what my experience was studying, what my experience was testing, and see if this may help you. So I did purchase a study course that I'm not going to name. I don't feel like if that was the only thing I did, I would have passed the exam. In fact, I know for sure if that course was the only thing that I would have relied on, I would not have passed my particular exam with the questions that came up out of the test bank from my test. So that being said, it did expose me to a lot of concepts that were valuable. So it wasn't a waste of money. It just wasn't sufficient to prepare me for the questions that I got out of the test bank. Some of the things that I would definitely recommend is reading the FAA publishes a study guide. Read that study guide. Read that study guide. Also read the CFR Part 107, the actual CFR. Those two things right there covered a lot. Like a lot of what came up on my test were rules and regs. So knowing the CFR and knowing the material that's in that study guide was super helpful. And I actually read the study guide this morning before I went to go test, and I'm so glad that I did. So what was on my test? So obviously a lot of sectional chart stuff, but on my particular test, I didn't get sectional chart as far as like reading latitude, longitude. It was more airspace related. So it was like, if you're going to fly to inspect this object at this, point on the map, stuff like, do you need to get ATC authorization? Do you not need to get ATC authorization, or are you even allowed to fly there? Stuff like that, right? So knowing your airspaces and knowing, generally how to find your way around a sectional chart is definitely helpful. I didn't get anything that was, like I said, I didn't get anything that required me to read longitude and latitude. Everything that they asked me on the sectional charts was super easy to find, and I had no issues there. I was super stressed out about the weather, the weather fronts and, stuff like that. And I didn't get a lot of questions about weather on my test. I did get a couple of questions that were, asking me to read TAFs and METARs, but it wasn't difficult. And I didn't get a lot of questions about the weather. The only thing that I got for weather on my particular test was density altitude. I got several questions on density altitude and the effect that it has on your unmanned aircraft. So knowing the effects of density altitude would be something I would definitely pay attention to. But as far as the weather and cumulus clouds and lenticular clouds and all the stuff that's in the weather, I didn't get any questions on any of that stuff at all. I got a couple questions on, if the air is stable, what are the what conditions could you expect, stuff like that, the easy stuff. But as far as like the scientific stuff, I didn't get any questions like that. What else? A lot of rules and regs. I got a lot of rules and regs. I didn't get anything on my exam that was weight and balance. I didn't have to use a calculator at all. They did actually provide a calculator, so I took a calculator, but they supplied one. The one thing that I was suggesting, I got this suggestion, I'm so glad that I did, take a magnifying glass. So if they don't provide you with the magnifying glass, and the supplement book that you get with all the sectional charts in there, that text is small. So, I'm in my 50s, And my eyes aren't the best. I did take my readers with me, but even with the readers, if I wouldn't have had that magnifying glass, I wouldn't have been able to to read a lot of the text that was on those sectional charts. So definitely take a magnifying glass. I bought a little small magnifying glass that was 5 power, and it was perfect. So take a magnifying glass. Okay. All right, moving on. As far as the testing concerned, like checking it, the check-in process was easy. Like it was, went in, gave my ID, they sent me down at a computer terminal. They had paper, pens, and a calculator there. That part of it was really simple. The test itself was easy to navigate, so I didn't have any troubles as far as navigating the actual testing equipment or whatever. Again, the thing that I would recommend is to read the study guide that they give you from the FAA, and also read the CFR, read the actual text of the CFR, because there wasn't so much testing on the actual black and white test of the CFR. They gave you some scenarios that you had to know how to apply the rules out of the CFR too. So, like one particular one that was kind of, I'm sure I saw it, but I don't remember it, was like, can you register a drone in both the U.S. and a foreign country? Stuff like that, right? So like that's stuff that you may gloss over because of some of the other stuff that may be more sexy in your study courses, like sectional charts and weather and radio. So also one of the things that definitely was helpful was radio communications. That was a lot of stuff on my sectional charts. Questions were stuff like CTAF, identifying CTAFs, identifying the height of different objects. Like out of all the study questions that I saw, and I watched a bunch of videos, I only saw probably 4 questions out of 60 that I actually recognized out of the study questions that I've seen online and on video. So knowing the gist of how airspace works, or what you can and can't do inside of certain airspaces. Knowing, for me, it was knowing Class E airspace. Was a lot of the questions I got was about how to operate around Class E airspace and the altitude limits and stuff like that. But aside from that, guys, like it was doable. I don't have any prior aviation knowledge or any prior aviation experience outside of flying drones and flying RC helicopters in the past. I've never been around, manned aviation at all, so I was totally unfamiliar with all the concepts prior to studying for the test. And, I did put the man hours in. I probably put in, 30, 40 hours of studying. So from watching the videos, from doing the course that I bought, had about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of video content in there. So I did that a couple times and watched a ton of YouTube videos. As far as some other guys that have passed it, or other guys that are flight instructors that are doing the test prep and stuff like that. So put the time in. The thing that I would recommend is, regardless of what you do as far as your test prep, read the FAA published study guide and read the CFR. Those 2 things right there get you a long way down the field as far as being prepared for the test. The other thing is just having a general knowledge of airspaces, knowing your way around the sectional charts. If there's any math, it will be easy. Like I said, I didn't have to use a calculator for not one question on my 60 question bank. So they had a question on the computer. They had a calculator both on the computer, and they had a calculator available at the desk. So I didn't have to use it for anything today. So there you have it, guys. I hope this helps you guys out. I hope this here motivates you to get yourself registered, to take the exam, and be prepared when you get there. I'm the type of person where sometimes I'll probably over prepare and find out things could have been a lot easier for me. This particular one, I don't regret any of the study time that I put into taking this test. If I would have done less, especially reading that study guide this morning, I probably wouldn't have passed. I think I missed 8 questions, and I think you're allowed to miss 18 or something like that. But like I said, I was right down the middle, 87%. I'll take the passing score, and I'll continue to stay informed as far as what the rules and regs and how all that stuff goes. But I'm happy to be at this point, a FAA certified remote drone pilot. So there you have it, guys. I hope this helps you guys. Good luck to you.